So, you've probably noticed my badge, the big yellow smiley face. Classic, right? When I was growing up, this was everywhere. We wore it on T-shirts, bandanas. We jumped around the school disco shouting acid without actually knowing what it meant. To us, it was just a cool word, a symbol of fun. We had no idea that it was tied to an entire underground drug culture, and no one explained it to us. I can remember watching Grange Hill. This was a school-based drama that tackled real issues, a bit like Waterloo Road today. In 1986, one of the main characters, Samo, became addicted to heroin, and his overdose storyline shocked the country. And out of that came the Just Say No campaign. I could see myself in the assembly. I was about 13. Head teacher was talking about it. Afterwards, there was no conversation or questions. We were just handed a leaflet and told, just say no. My name's Nicci Parish. I'm the founder of a community interest company based in Worthing. I work as a membership advisor, but most important, I'm the mum to 2 boys. So let's fast forward to today. You'd think things have changed, and in some ways they have. But when it comes to young people, recreational drugs, and the role of parents, carers, and our community, we're still navigating that silent stigma and fear. So my talk today is, how do we break that silence? How do we start those conversations, and why does it matter? The Mix UK, which is a youth support charity, reported that 1 in 3 teens said they definitely avoided having conversations with their parents about recreational drugs because they felt it might make them look guilty or like they're using them. The NSPCC and Parent Zone did a joint survey, and this told us that 59% of parents said they avoided talking about drugs because they didn't feel informed enough to have a useful conversation. So that shows us that there's still so much more that we need to do. Think about the young people in your lives. Think about them navigating this world where drugs are sold on social media, marketed like pick and mix. Things have changed so much. So recreation or drugs have changed. So we need to make sure our responses change too. So November 2020, the second lockdown. Life was strange, but I was happy. Mum to 2 boys. On the 9th, we marked Billy's 24th birthday. Quieter than usual. No big night out with friends, no celebrating with all the family. He spent the evening with his girlfriend. The next day, I got a phone call in the morning. While I expected it to be from a hungover Billy, it was his girlfriend's mum. Billy and his girlfriend had had an argument on that evening. They'd had a few drinks, and at some point during the early hours of the morning, they decided to take a recreational drug called MDMA. The MDMA that Billy took was too pure, and he had no way of knowing that. He collapsed and was taken to hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, had to wait first because it was locked down, I was taken into a room and I was told that he had taken MDMA. When the doctor left, I had to Google, what is MDMA? Billy deteriorated. He then got transferred to ITU. But despite all the care and efforts of all the staff there, he passed away just 3 days after his 24th birthday. Just like that, my beautiful, cheeky, and sometimes naughty boy was gone forever. So there I was. The ground had literally been pulled from underneath me. We locked down again. I didn't leave the house. I barely functioned. But there was this thought that haunted me as I just about survived the 3rd lockdown. And it was simply that I felt too embarrassed to ask, what is MDMA? I was the mum of 2 boys, knew nothing about recreational drugs. I'd actually said to Billy, just say no. This was then reinforced when I was in a counselling session with Henry. The counsellor asked him, would you ever take drugs? He replied instantly, no. She then said, what about if that hadn't have happened to Billy? And he paused. And that pause spoke volumes to me. This was my 16-year-old. played National League basketball, straight A student, really into fitness, who I'd never spoken to about drugs because I just assumed that he wouldn't take them. And there he was saying maybe he would if his friends were doing it. I'd like to show you how simple it can be sometimes to miss some of the signs. Can I get a show of hands of how many of you know what the emoji is for cocaine? There's a couple, but not many. It's actually a snowman. Now, if you saw that on your child's phone, would you think twice or would you just assume it was harmless fun? What about street names? Does anybody know what the street names are for MDMA? No, couple again. So it could be called Molly or Mandy. Again, if you heard young people talking about that, you'd just assume they were talking about friends. Things have changed so much. Social media is now a massive way of our young people being exposed to recreational drugs. I did some research for Meridian News. I went on Instagram, and I'm not great on Instagram. It took me less than 30 minutes to find someone that was selling drugs that could have them delivered to me. No face-to-face contact, no questions asked. Now imagine 3 or 4 teenagers looking through those same adverts. They're colourful, they're made to look like pick and mix, they're labelled safe, fun. Now imagine if that's a young person you know. Terrifying, right? But what if you'd had a conversation with them? What if that conversation had been an open and honest conversation about recreational drugs, the risks, the dangers, and the effects? What if during that conversation you told them about the text emoji code? So what's that? It's really simple. With your young person, you agree an emoji, let's say a heart. They're out, they're in a situation where they feel really uncomfortable, they want to leave, but they don't know how. Peer pressure is hard for kids. They text you that emoji. You then phone them and you say, oh, I'm sorry, I need you to come home. The dog's got out, or whatever excuse. They then go, oh, God, my mum's so annoying. I've got to go. They get to leave the situation without losing face. Peer pressure gone. Perfect, right? When they get back, though, don't ask them a load of questions. Wait for them to come to talk to you. So what if a young person that you know was out and someone in their group was becoming unwell after taking a recreational drug, but you'd had a conversation with them about drugs and emergencies, and they knew that calling 999 was the most important thing that they could do? Well, you wouldn't really need to have a conversation like that, would you? I mean, everybody knows to call 999. Not necessarily, no. I now know that Billy was unconscious for at least 30 minutes before the ambulance was called. I now know that his girlfriend texted one of his friends saying he'd become unwell, saying, what should I do? He replied instantly, call an ambulance. She then took a video of him having a seizure and sent the video to his friend. What should I do? He again replied, call an ambulance. She still didn't. Her mum was walking past the room, heard Billy making some strange noises, went in to see what was happening. She called the ambulance. So it's just so important that we make sure everybody knows that paramedics don't care. They just want to get that young person into hospital and better. It really isn't worth somebody's life to hesitate. Can I just get all of you right now to ask yourself a question? What is more uncomfortable? You having a conversation with a young person about recreational drugs, or them finding themselves in a situation where they really don't know what to do? So tonight, I want you to take away 2 things. The first thing, I challenge you, have that conversation with a young person. Listen with interest. Don't judge, even if you don't like what they're saying. That simple conversation could save a life. The second thing I want you to do is do a bit of research. You really don't have to know everything. And it's okay to say, do you know what? I don't know. Let's look together. There's a website called Talk to Frank. All you need to do is put Frank into Google. Easy to find, easy to use. It lists all the recreational drugs, their risks, the effects, the dangers, and the street names. doing those two things could really make a difference. Thank you for listening. Oh, God.